Hello YouTube and welcome back to my channel. You can probably hear the nursery rhymes in the background. Baby boy's in his swing right now and it's the cutest thing ever. I am officially about to head to hopefully get released to do all the things that I miss doing. Run, ride, work out, basically all the activities that I do on a daily basis that I haven't been able to do since having a baby. So I'm gonna take you guys with me to the 6-week appointment, but I also wanted to make this a little Q&A on the go because it's just easier to do it that way. That's the reality of my life right now. It's harder to just sit still when you have a newborn. So yeah, I will be answering these postpartum questions that you guys asked over on my Instagram throughout the day. I need to get baby boy's diaper bag packed up and I need to get us loaded up and on the go because he's probably gonna need to be nursed before the appointment. Otherwise we might have a meltdown in the middle of it, and that just sounds crazy because Jordan is at a work meeting and he may or may not be able to make this appointment. I'm praying that he can. In case we do have a meltdown, he can kind of step in so that I can get checked, but we will see. Don't really know what to expect. I think I might have mentioned this in the previous vlog, but we have the Baby Brezza bottle washer. I think it's the Pro, maybe it's not the Pro, I don't remember. This is what it looks like right here. This is it. And I highly recommend it. It's so much easier. It's so easy to fill up. It's so easy to set up. And it literally washes, cleans, steams, all the things for you. I am breastfeeding and I am pumping too. So for how many bottles I'm going through right now, it's a lot. And then you've got your pump parts and all of that. And it's also really noisy, but you guys get the memo. You should get it. All right, diaper bag is packed. Also, this little fan, I think it was like $9 on Amazon. Highly recommend it. This has been amazing, especially when Mav gets fussy in the car. I don't know what it is. If you just turn this on, he stops. Like, he just completely stops. So, love it. Good to go? All strapped in? All right, I'm back home for my appointment. I got released, yay. I'm so excited. I think I'm gonna try to, I think I'm gonna try to go to the gym and actually get my first little like workout in later when Jordan gets back home. But I wanted to go ahead and answer some of these questions. If you guys see me looking up, I'm using a different camera right now. And so I'm just trying to make sure that like I'm in the frame and he's not because I'm nursing right now. I wanted to answer some of these questions that you guys asked. And one of the biggest questions that I gotten asked is how long did I labor for? I thought it was 16 hours. It was not. I just counted to confirm and it was more closer to 17, 18 hours. I went into labor at 3 a.m. At least that's when I woke up, when I started feeling the contractions, and they weren't super strong yet. So I believe that was probably the start of it. Could have been a little sooner, a little earlier than that, and maybe I was sleeping through it. But from when I recalled starting contractions was 3 a.m. on the dot, like 3:02 a.m. is when I woke up. And then we had baby boy at 8:40 p.m. So I think that if you do the math, that's like 17 hours, something like that, which they say is actually pretty fast for a first-time mom. I was fully prepared to go over 24 hours. A lot of the first-time moms that I personally know that have had babies, their first birth, they were well over the 24-hour mark. So I was mentally prepared to have a marathon type day, and I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that he arrived a little bit sooner. Okay, little man is in his swing over there now. But yeah, having a unmedicated birth, it wasn't really necessarily that it was like super important to me. It was just I wanted to be able to do it. I wanted to see that my body could do it. And for as long as I can remember, even before I met Jordan, when I would think about having babies or a family one day, like starting a family one day, I just knew, I was like, I would love to be able to have an unmedicated birth. So that's that. How did you feel physically and emotionally after giving birth? Exhausted. Literally, it felt like I ran a marathon times 20. I labored 95 to 99% of the time standing up, really from the start of labor until I actually had him. When they put me in a wheelchair 10 minutes, 15 minutes before he was actually born, that was the first time I had really sat down since like 9 a.m. that morning. I did labor standing up most of the time except when I was in the bathtub, but then I was on my hands and my knees, which isn't exactly the most comfortable position in a ceramic tub. I actually had bruises on both of my knees that they checked at the hospital and they're like, can we ask what that's from? And I was like, I can tell you exactly what it's from. My knees were so bruised from the labor in the tub because I was in there for probably an hour and a half when I started trying to push him out on my hands and knees. And you know, contractions aren't the most comfortable thing in the world. And so I was definitely, I don't want to say thrashing around. I was definitely moving around and ripped all my toenail polish off too. Emotionally, it felt healing for me. Just with walking through so much loss, he's so cute. With walking through so much loss, the loss that we did, and just, you know, waiting for as long as we did, I just feel like there was a piece of my heart that a broken piece was glued back together in that moment. Emotionally, I was just kind of also in shock. And I can't say this for like a medicated birth, right? But with unmedicated, I felt like it was almost an out of body experience. Like my mind was in what they call labor land, and I definitely was there. And I came back from labor land, quote unquote, when I heard him cry for the first time. And so I think emotionally it was just a lot to process. I was like, what did I just go through? And then you throw in the whirlwind of getting transferred to the hospital and losing his heart rate, and like that drive to the hospital felt like an absolute eternity, because I was like, is he okay? Is his heart rate still there? Like, is my baby okay? That's literally all I could keep thinking about. And even when we got to the hospital, the nurses, when they were looking for his heart rate, checking my blood pressure, putting a PICC line in my arm for an IV if I needed it, all I could ask was, is my baby okay? So yeah, emotionally, I was pretty tired too. Mindset preparations for someone who's never given birth and wants to do it naturally. I started mentally preparing for natural birth literally before I even got to the end of my first trimester. I knew that I wanted an unmedicated birth. And so for me, I knew that that was going to come with a lot of mental preparation, being able to push through crazy circumstances. And I mean, I don't know, like there wasn't really anything specifically that I did besides just really meditate on God's word and recite scripture, speak life over myself, speak life over my baby. I prayed very intentional prayers. I prayed for my labor to be shorter than 24 hours, which it was, praise God. And I also prayed for my water to stay intact until I was ready to start pushing. Because somewhere, I think if it was in like a podcast or something, I had heard that if your water stays intact, it can kind of take some of the craziness off of the contractions. Whether or not that's true, I hear you, babe. Oh, hi. Whoa, whoa. Wow, you really snuck up on me there.
Got you.
Babe, do you remember when my water broke?
Yes, I do.
It was crazy. I was in the tub.
It wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
No. Well, you hear all these stories about like my water broke and it was like a waterfall and blah, blah, blah. That wasn't the case at all. But I was actually in the tub pushing when my water broke. I think it was what, like on the 4th or the 5th push?
Yeah.
It broke. And that's what's so cool about all of this is like I prayed for that. For 9 months, I prayed, maybe not 9, maybe it was more like 6 or 7 months. I prayed for my water to stay intact until I was pushing, because I heard that that could take some of the intensity off of the contractions. And it wasn't until like the 4th or 5th push that I felt this weird pop, and I just knew, like instinctually, I was like, my water just broke. And sure enough, that's what had happened. So, you know, pray detailed prayers. I just want to encourage like any mamas who, you know, maybe you're preparing for an unmedicated birth, like you can pray specific prayers and the Lord is faithful to answer them. And if he doesn't answer them, it doesn't mean you didn't pray, right? Or it doesn't mean that like God doesn't love you, right? Like his plan is so much better than our own. But yeah, you can ask specific things. Side note, I just got a little package from C-Bones Jewelry, and I wanted to open it with you guys because I'm really excited to see what they sent. I've noticed that like even getting ready postpartum just helps you feel so much better in this season. Oh my gosh, look how cute. Look how cute. Okay, let's unbox this together. I'm not usually a pink girly, but this is really cute. And we are going on a family vacation this month, so I'm really excited to have some jewelry to wear on the beach. And this is not sponsored, by the way. I just wanted to genuinely share this because I love sharing things that I'm loving in this season. Cutest little ring. Look at these pearly cross earrings, you guys. Literally cannot wait to wear those. I'm gonna be wearing those like crazy. We got this super cute chunky heart necklace. You guys know I love a good chunky necklace. And then this cowboy-ish charm necklace. It's got like a pearl cross, a heart, a boot, horseshoe, a plane. Oh my gosh, I love it. Love, love, love. Okay, the next question. Congratulations. Do you regret having a natural birth if that's what you did? And if you didn't, do you regret it? No, I don't regret having a natural birth at all. Again, I don't like calling it natural because I think birth in general is a natural, beautiful thing. I prefer unmedicated and I don't regret it at all. Like, I'm so glad that that's the direction that I went. And then another question that I got asked is recovery. What was recovery from that like? If you haven't watched the birth vlog or the birth story, I did have an episiotomy and they did have to use a vacuum on Maverick to help get him out. It was just a scary situation. They had to get him out ASAP and I didn't want a C-section because that alone terrifies me. And so that's the route we went. Those were my two choices, episiotomy or a C-section. And I love that the doctor gave me an option. That was so incredibly kind of her, because I think in a lot of situations that probably isn't the case. A lot of situations you don't really have options or get a choice, because again, at that point, it's about the health of the mother and the baby. I don't know where I was going with that. Mom brain. Okay, recovery. Recovery after the unmedicated birth was very quick. The first 3 days were absolutely brutal. From the episiotomy and the vacuum, I was just in a lot of pain. We'll leave it at that. I would say that that was probably the hardest part of my recovery. There's actually a video that I shared of Jordan helping me get up to go to the bathroom that was on my Instagram and on my TikTok, and I could hardly stand up those first couple of days because my body was 1 shot from basically laboring the entire time standing up minus the bathtub, and then 2 the episiotomy, and 3 the vacuum. It was a lot. There was a lot going on down there, and I don't think I was prepared for that. You hear about the pain of a C-section, but I never really heard about the possibility of having pain from recovering with an unmedicated vaginal birth. And so ultimately, like, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go that route, because I was like, okay, it sounds like recovery is not a breeze, but easier than a C-section. And I was thoroughly humbled when I was not able to stand up right away by myself. So I don't say that to scare anyone. I just want people to know, like, that's the reality of certain situations. I've seen women that have unmedicated vaginal births and they're able to walk totally fine. But in my situation, it was kind of an emergency and they had to use some things to help us get the ball rolling to get him out. And for me, that made it a little bit harder to recover from. My battery's about to die. Let me go get a new one. Okay, I just got a nice quick little workout in the garage done, which was really sweet. I have not worked out in a little over 6 weeks now, and that felt really good. I feel really out of shape, but muscle memory is a thing, and I know that before I know it, I'll be back into the swing of things. I wanted to answer some more questions. Okay. Yeah, you tell me all about it. Did you tear? I am so scared of this when I get pregnant. So again, I'm going to reference you to my birth vlog and birth story video. Long story short, I did have an episiotomy. Yeah, it was all because of you, because you just wanted to make your own entrance into this world, and that's okay. I think it says a lot about your personality and who God has called you to be. You just stand out, and I hope the baby noises are blessing y'all. I did have an episiotomy. You know, not the easiest thing in the world to go through, but I don't know what tearing is like versus actually getting cut, so there's that. I will say that I had the most incredible doctor who did it, and she was amazing, and I feel like for the most part it was a pretty seamless process. I don't remember the episiotomy. I don't remember the pain of it. I think that has a lot to do with the Lord, like, erasing mom's memory, just like it says in the Bible about how she will forget the pain of labor once she's holding her child. But like I said a second ago, the recovery is a little bit difficult, but once you get past that, like, first little, like, few days, it's a breeze. It's a breeze after that. As someone who has had loss before, is labor triggering in any way? How not to be fearful? Such a good question. At least for me, I experienced labor to be really exciting. It meant that we were about to meet our son. It meant that he was on his way. It meant that within the next day or two, you know, depending on how long my labor ended up being, that he was going to be in my arms, and that just felt really exciting. I never experienced fear until I was rushed into the hospital. That's kind of when fear started trying to grip me, and I really just had to rest in the Lord of, like, Holy Spirit, I need you. I need your presence right now. God, I need the Spirit of God to fall on me. I need an unexplainable peace that surpasses all understanding, and ultimately I got that. Yeah, and then the second that they put him on my chest, it was just like a broken piece of my heart that was glued back together. I don't know how to explain it. Even leading into, like, the postpartum, really, like, there's just so much healing that takes place when you've walked through loss. So no, I never experienced fear in labor about loss. I experienced excitement and joy, and like I said, a peace that surpasses all understanding. What were your first signs of labor? So I went into labor around 3 a.m. and it felt like light period cramps. Not so light that I didn't notice them, but not so strong that they were unbearable. They were obviously strong enough to wake me up because I was sound asleep. I had gone to bed the night before at midnight because I was hanging out with my girlfriends. Don't recommend that at all. Like, I labored on 3 hours of sleep. So if you are in the final days of your pregnancy, please don't do what I did and make sure you're getting enough sleep. I was wrecked for like 48 hours after he arrived, because you just don't sleep with a newborn. Even though we were in the hospital, like, you just don't sleep with a newborn. And so I was so exhausted, so exhausted. I don't think I got a good night's sleep until we got home from the hospital, because my mother-in-law was here and we did night shifts, which also highly recommend. And I'll talk more about postpartum in my postpartum postpartum Q&A. I'm gonna separate the two because there's a lot of questions about both and I don't want this to be a super long video. Yeah, so my first signs, like I said, were light period cramps, and then they progressively got stronger until I was in active labor, and then that's when they stopped feeling like period cramps. Labor positions that you loved and the position that you gave birth in. I love this question. Labor position that I absolutely loved was hands down squatting or being on my hands and knees or standing, which sounds crazy because most people probably don't stand. But for me, that is what felt most comfortable. Basically anything that I could be moving and swaying and moving and swaying. I feel like personally, every time I went into a squat position or I swayed my hips, anything that really opened my hips up, I think helped baby boy move down into the birth canal. Also, this one's gonna really throw y'all off, but laboring backwards on the toilet. I now understand why it's called the dilation station, because I sat there for about 15 minutes, I think through like 2 to 4 contractions. I literally can't remember. I think it was 3 contractions or 4 contractions. I remember it was intense, very intense. There was some pain. I was making a lot of like just primal noises and like, you know, low vocal cord noises. Jordan was giving me counter pressure. He was sitting behind me as I was sitting backwards on the toilet. Very humbling position, trust me. But at that point you don't care because you're just trying to get through it. And I am still convinced that that is what took me from active labor to transition and why I transitioned so quickly into being fully dilated. It's called the dilation station for a reason. A lot of women labor on the toilet. I did not know this really until I went to my birth class with my doula, and she was like, girl, if you ever stall or get stuck in labor, like I'm gonna stick you on the toilet, it's gonna solve all the problems. So just keep that in mind. Don't turn it down. I almost did, and at that point I was just like, I just want this baby to get here already. I want labor to be over, and I was willing to do whatever it took. Labor backwards on the toilet. It works so well. And baby boy was born at the hospital. I was on my back. I was pushing for an hour and a half, and baby boy was born obviously at the hospital. I had an episiotomy and he had a vacuum delivery, and so baby boy was born at the hospital. I was obviously on my back. And so that was a little disappointing, but it is what it is. I was trying to push him out when I was pushing for the hour and a half in the tub. I was on my hands and knees, and that is just what felt most comfortable to me. Hi, handsome. It was the most comfortable position for me because it felt like it took pressure off my back. And yeah, I don't know, being in the water, being on my hands and knees, that just seemed like the winning combination for me. Basically anything in the water, the shower or the tub, was a dream. Aside from Jesus, obviously, what helped you cope with labor pain? Counter pressure, having a game plan. We did hire a doula, and she was literally amazing. My doula was amazing. I will absolutely be hiring her for my next birth. I definitely recommend it if it's in your budget to get a doula or someone that has experience in that regard. She was able to really come in, and not only did she help with counter pressure and like coping measures, but she was able to coach Jordan, because we went to a birth class, but in the heat of the moment you kind of forget, your brain gets frazzled, you're like, oh my gosh, it's happening, and it helped having her there, because Jordan was able to ask her like, what should I do, what you know, technique could I use to help her with this next contraction. And it was amazing, and I genuinely think that we could not have done it. I say we, Jordan and I don't think we could have done it without our doula. She was just truly an angel, a gift from God in that moment. And like I said, we will absolutely be using her for the next birth that we have. And yeah, just having techniques and things that you're planning on using. I also used a birth comb, so anytime I had a contraction, I would actually do this, like, because you get to a point in labor where just verbal cues, verbal communication is not really a thing. I would do this with my hand, and Jordan knew that that meant to get the birth comb and put it in my hand, and I would squeeze that so hard. The next day I had almost like a bruise on my palm because I was pushing that birth comb so hard into my skin, and that really seemed to help like counteract the pain of the contraction. But again, some people say that the birth comb doesn't help, some people say that it does. It worked really well for me. I think ultimately it's just really like trying different things in labor and seeing what works for you. I don't remember if I already answered something like this, but it said, did contractions feel like what you thought they would feel like? Yes, they did. They actually felt intense. Like I said, I don't want to say I had a pain-free birth. I did not. There was pain involved. I don't remember it. I couldn't tell you what it felt like. Was it as painful as I thought it would be based on what I've had women tell me and what I've read online? It wasn't. It just felt really intense. I hope that encourages anyone that's wanting to do an unmedicated birth. The intensity is there. It's gonna feel intense. You're literally bringing life into this world. Your body is doing the most insane thing that it could ever do, but it's not so overwhelmingly painful that you can't do it. Were there times where I doubted myself? Absolutely. Were there times that I thought I can't do this any longer? Absolutely. I had several of those moments. One One of those being in the car when we were on the way to the birthing center, and at that point I had no choice but to do it because it was too far past the point of being so dilated that I couldn't get an epidural even if I wanted one. Did you take any depression or anxiety meds during pregnancy or postpartum? No, I have not, and I've never been on meds for anxiety or depression, and I definitely didn't take any during pregnancy because pregnancy was so joyful. Yeah, but I also understand that there's a lot of like anxiety that can come in pregnancy, especially when you've walked through loss. So it's a valid question, and like I said, I have struggled with postpartum anxiety. It's already getting better, and I'll talk more about that in my postpartum Q&A. Just lots of prayer and lots of being willing to be vulnerable with people that you can trust and not being ashamed to cry. I had someone the other day that said something that was literally so profound. It was on YouTube, I think, and I forget, I'm gonna butcher this, but she basically said, just because you waited and prayed so long for this child doesn't mean that it's not okay to not be okay. And that really hit me because I think that it's very easy for us to think, well, we prayed so long for this, like it's not right to be sad, it's not right to be anxious. But the truth is, like, those things happen, especially with the crazy hormone changes that come after birth. So there's no shame in asking for help. What are you gonna talk about? Look at those legs, you're getting so strong. I love you. Ready? Ready? Kiss your hand. There we go. You're doing so good. Okay. Oh my word, this onesie, how is this already almost small on you? You are growing like a weed, sir. Well, that's gonna make mama cry. You're growing so fast. Hello, it is the next morning, and you guys know that I am notorious for forgetting to finish vlogs, especially as a mom, because mom brain is real. I am currently watching my perfect angel sleep in his bassinet, and I'm about to wake him up, so I figured I would answer a few more questions while I'm just sitting here waiting for my best friend besides my husband, who he just left because he had to take one of our dogs to the groomer. So I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs basically, and I wanted to answer a few questions that were ones that I was looking for answers for when I was pregnant. The first one being probably TMI, but how was your first bathroom visit after birth? Not TMI. I think that this is something that a lot of moms, future moms, are curious about because there's so many like terrible stories out there. And I just want to say this, the reason why there's so many bad stories out there is because the good ones aren't as interesting. They just aren't. I feel like, unfortunately, you know, there's so many positive birth experiences that happen on a day-to-day basis, and I think you just don't hear about those enough. So yeah, for me it wasn't bad. It wasn't what in my head I thought it was going to be. I really psyched myself out. I was like, oh wow, like I've had this baby, now I have to climb this mountain too, and it just wasn't bad, you guys. It really wasn't. The nurses that we had, because we were at the hospital, were literally amazing. One of them even went in there and was like showing me how to use all the postpartum stuff, because that was a whole thing in itself, and I had no idea what was what. They're just angels, truly. Like those nurses in the labor and delivery unit, and then the mommy baby board or whatever it's called, those nurses are literal angels on this earth. We did not have a single nurse that made me feel uncomfortable. Yeah, they're all incredible. I just had to stop because I was like, something is not right with my pump. Literally, it ran out of room. As you guys can see, it ran out of room and it started leaking out all over my legs, all over me. I've never had this happen before, but I guess that's good. We're producing milk for baby boy. I feel like I need to pump again. What? That's wow, that's wild. And he's already eaten. He just ate like 40 minutes ago is what my phone says. Also, the Huckleberry app is literally amazing if you're trying to get any kind of rhythm down. I definitely recommend the Huckleberry app because that has really helped us get like a little bit of a rhythm down. I'm not gonna say a routine because I just personally don't feel like a newborn should have a routine, and every day is different for us. But the Huckleberry app, write that one down because you're gonna want that. It's amazing. It tracks literally everything that you need to track to help you get into new rhythms. This says, what would you say was the one thought going through your head during labor? Definitely, I was like hyping myself up of like each contraction was one contraction closer to baby, and then I kept telling myself you can do anything for a minute, which sounds kind of cliche. I feel like a lot of people talk about that, but you can do anything for a minute. And when you really look at it as like each contraction is one contraction closer to meeting your son or your daughter, the baby that you've been praying 9 months for, possibly longer if you've been in a waiting season like we were, it takes the edge off. I mean, obviously, like I said, it wasn't a pain-free labor or delivery by any means, but it was more intense than it was painful. Sorry, my memory card got full. I don't know where I left off. I think I was talking about what was one thing that you thought going through your head during labor, and basically, yeah, it was just like, you can do this, you can do anything for a minute, and one more contraction, get through one more contraction, and one more contraction is that much closer to meeting your baby. So that's what encouraged me when I was going through it, because like I said, it was very intense, and I don't want to say extremely painful. It wasn't obviously comfortable, but it was very intense. What helped you go natural? I want to, but I am also terrified. I think fear is normal with that because we live in a world that's just very like, birth is the worst thing you'll ever experience, birth is terrible, birth is this, birth is that, and it's like, birth is actually beautiful. It is the most beautiful thing I ever experienced and hardest thing I've ever done, obviously, but easily the most beautiful. I feel like my ears are sticking out with this headband. Whatever, we're just gonna roll with it. So yeah, I think for me it was just really staying rooted in the Lord, leaning on him for strength and endurance in those moments, having someone that's super supportive of you and like wants what you want, basically. Like from the get-go, Jordan was like, however you want to bring this baby into the world, that is up to you, and I'm gonna support you wholeheartedly. He asked hard questions. I think initially he wanted me to go the hospital route, but once he heard my why and he heard my passion and why I wanted to do an unmedicated birth, he was definitely like open to it, and he was very, very supportive for the whole time. And then I would say, if you can, hire a doula. That was literally a game changer for us because it helped Jordan in those moments. Like I said, we did birth classes, but it helped him know exactly how to be there for me and help me. What is the most memorable moment from giving birth? I would say even before he actually arrived, my most memorable moment was when I was pushing in the tub. I had been pushing probably at this point for an hour, and I was starting to reach that I can't do this anymore point. They had prayed over me. Jordan had already read scripture over me. Nothing seemed to be like helping me get past that mindset, and we had worship music playing, and at that point the song Yeshua came on, which anyone that knows me on a friend level knows that's one of my favorite songs. It just holds such reverence for the Lord, and so that song coming on in a moment where I was ready to tap out, that was beautiful. I was like this close to being like, I can't do this anymore, take me to the hospital, get this baby out of me. But I remained calm. I focused on the Lord. Peace that surpasses all understanding was present. The Lord was tangibly present in that room. The Holy Spirit was just filling the atmosphere, and when that song came on, Yeshua, I was able to get through it. I was like, you know what, this is the Lord speaking, and I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, and obviously things did not go as planned, but that's okay, because you know what, the Lord showed up in a moment where I didn't think I could do it anymore, and he knew exactly what to make happen in that moment to speak to me without actually speaking to me, if that makes sense. And yeah, I ended up pushing for I think 45 more minutes, something like that, probably 30 minutes, and then that's when his heart rate started dropping and they emergency transferred us to the hospital. But even in the chaos, like to have a peace that surpasses all understanding from the Lord is priceless. And the last one, I'm not kidding you guys, in this question box alone there were probably 1,000 questions just about labor and delivery, not even regarding postpartum. But this one is another one that, two of them really. Would you do a natural birth again? Yes, 100%. I already want to do it again. I can't wait for that day. And then what would you have done differently when giving birth to your baby boy? I don't know, like looking back, I don't think I would have done anything differently, to be honest, but in our next birth, I don't think I would labor at home as long as I did, and I don't think I'll be able to, because with your second birth, sometimes your second baby comes way faster, and I progressed much quicker than I think any of us expected, to be honest. And so we were very close to trying to push a baby out in the car. Obviously, knowing what I know now, that wouldn't have happened because I needed some help because he was a big baby, but no one wants to push in a car. Like, that's just like not ideal at all. So I think I would have gone to the birthing center sooner, and I think I would have asked for a cervical check while I was here at the house laboring. I didn't ask for one, and I didn't want one because I didn't want to be discouraged if I wasn't progressing the way that I wanted to be. You know, I didn't want to think in my head I'm like a 7 or 8 entering transition and I was really only like a 4, because I think that would just like mentally get to me, if you know what I'm saying. So I think I would have done a cervical check in the middle of labor just to see how we were progressing, because that would have helped us go into number 2, and that's leaving in a timely manner. Like I said, there's so many other questions that I wish I could answer. Feel free to even ask questions down below, and I will do my best to go through and answer those as I can with baby boy in my downtime. I'm so grateful just for the way that things panned out, even though they didn't pan out as we thought. Everything was perfect. Baby boy arrived healthy. I was healthy as the mama, and that's ultimately what matters. Healthy mom, healthy baby, and anything outside of that is in God's hands. Thank you guys so much for stopping in on my channel, and I will see you guys in the next vlog. Bye.